This week I'm going to talk about reasons to recover and reasons not to relapse. I think it's a very good idea to write down a list of reasons to recover so that if you feel like you're struggling, you can just read through this list and hopefully it'll give you some inspiration to keep pushing on forwards. Secondly, I think it's a good idea to write a list of reasons not to relapse, because the eating disorder can make you look back at it with kind of rose-tinted glasses, and obviously that's not a great way to look at it. It's not the truth of it. And so if you've got this list of all the horrible things that you experienced during your eating disorder, it can help you, realise that relapse is not the right thing to do at all. So I'm going to be reading off quite a few sheets today because I've got my list of things to read out just to maybe help you have a few ideas of what you could put in your own lists. So my list of reasons to keep on recovering is as follows. My idea of a perfect body is attainable only by sacrificing happiness, health, healthy relationships, and my personality. That's just not worth being thin. Recovering means reclaiming these things. Having my life controlled by the desire to attain a perfect body is not living, it is merely existing, and I want to live. Being thin does not equal being happy. In fact, an eating disorder causes your life to become a living hell in its obsession to make you thin. I want to be happy. The year I spent being incredibly sick, I should have been enjoying with someone who was a wonderful partner, who, if the eating disorder had not been present, would have made me feel 110% happy and fulfilled. I do not want this to happen again in the future. It makes me act very coldly towards people that I feel love for. I do not want to cause distress to those who love and care about me and be unable to show that love and care for them in return. Now, when I was in my eating disorder, I was unable to display any intimacy at all. It was like my body had been taken over by somebody else, and I could feel all the emotions inside me that were positive, but all I could express was negative. So when my partner wanted to hug me, I just literally wanted him to get off me. But inside, really, I was screaming for a hug, but I just couldn't deal with it. And that was really, really horrible to experience. And I'm sure it was for him as well. It will not solve my insecurities about myself. I may feel like I'm finally really, really good at something, but the only achievement I will be making is finding a quicker way to death. I do not want to die. I am a movie buff. I love watching movies. Not eating means having no concentration whatsoever and not being able to watch movies anymore. I was watching Schindler's List, I think, when I was really bad. And it took me like 3 hours to get through it because I had to keep pausing it because I couldn't concentrate on it for a long period of time, and I had to keep doing other things, and it was really horrible because I just wanted to enjoy the movie, but I couldn't concentrate on it for longer than about half an hour at a time. I love baking. I'd have to give it up if I went back to being controlled by my eating disorder. Now, a lot of people with eating disorders obviously bake more and then don't eat it themselves but give it to other people. I wasn't like that. I wouldn't bake because I'd be too scared of being too tempted by the food, so I just didn't bake at all, and I really, really love baking, so yeah. Food is good for the soul as well as nourishment for the body. Living off soup and broccoli is a horrifically bland existence. When I was sick, I felt like I'd reached a level of control that most people could not reach. It made me feel powerful and smug. In reality, no one was impressed. No one except ill people, like me, wanted my ability to starve. Most people who knew me were scared, shocked, and horrified by what I was doing to myself. The feeling of being in control was just an illusion. Really, it was my mental illness that had the power over me. I think that's really, really important to remember, because the positives that you think you gain from it aren't actually that really positives at all. They're illusions. They're something that the eating disorder creates and makes up for you. I want to be able to enjoy socialising with friends instead of finding it almost impossible to focus on the conversation, experiencing dissociation and therefore becoming anxious and then having to hide my anxiety. I find it really, really hard to communicate all the time. I'm a really sociable person. Unlike a lot of people with eating disorders, I still was very sociable even at my worst, but I found it really, really difficult because I really wanted to socialise, but when I was in these social environments, I was really, really anxious. I was body checking all the time. I'd experienced dissociation, and then I couldn't focus. As soon as I dissociated, I kept being really, really anxious about that, and I couldn't focus on the conversation at hand. Counting and compensating for every mouthful is exhausting physically and mentally. Overexercising and making myself vomit has to be two of the most unpleasant things to feel like I had to do. Both are horrifically grueling. I do not want to ever have to do that ever again. Not eating can have permanent negative effects on the body. I want to minimise these by never going back. The insomnia and the half-asleep state where numbers and food plans and feelings of anxiety circulated around my brain were excruciating. It was almost like torture being unable to sleep or unable to sleep properly. I rarely felt like I'd rested at all. I love sleeping deeply and fully. Recovery enables me to do so. I think that's one of the biggest reasons, actually, that keeps me recovering, is being able to sleep properly, because it really was excruciating not being able to sleep, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. Being able to feel at ease at other people's houses, cafes, supermarkets and restaurants. Before, I would feel terrified of giving into temptation whilst being around food that I did not feel safe around. So I actually made my partner at the time come to my house. We were at uni like an hour away from each other. And we used to visit each other every week. So I'd go there one week, he'd come here one week. And then when I got to my worst, I wouldn't go to his anymore. I refused to go, and he had to come to mine because I was too terrified to be in his kitchen because it didn't have my safe foods there. That I didn't really see how that was that bad at the time, but now I really can recognise that. To have shiny, healthy hair instead of it falling out and hanging dead and limp and dry. I have had a lot of problems with my hair, kind of since my very worst and since recovery. I think I explained in a previous video I did that your hair can get worse in recovery because it kind of shows all the damage afterwards. But yeah, my hair used to be like down here, and now it's here because I had to cut it all off, and it's still pretty not great at the ends, but I really don't want to cut any more of the length. And I had been growing my hair for a while because I really wanted it to be really long, and then I had to cut it off because it was so awful. So yeah, second page. To be able to recall my memories rather than straining to remember things. My friend last year came to visit me at my flat at university. We went out for dinner and to the cinema, and when we walked home we walked past where I used to live in first year, which is when I was really, really sick. And she said to me, didn't you used to live around here? And I was like, how do you know that? And she was like, because I came to visit you. And I was like, no you didn't. And she was like, yes I did, I came to your flat. I was like, you did? She was like, yes I did. And I, for the life of me, couldn't remember at all that she'd even come to see me. She then said that we were both very unhappy and we were eating soup. And suddenly this one memory of us eating soup in the kitchen came back to me. That's the only memory I have, apart from the next day I remember that we went to Starbucks. And those two very small snippets of time, she was there for at least 24 hours, and I just remember these two blurry memories of her being there, and it took me ages to remember. I couldn't remember that she'd even been there until she said that, and it's quite horrifying that I couldn't even remember that. I don't remember anything else of her visit, and I'm sure there's lots of other memories that I don't recall as well from the first year. There's so many things that I'm sure I've forgotten because my brain was so affected by starvation. That's quite a scary thought, that you can forget something like that because you're not eating enough. I want to feel like my eating disorder is not an integral part of my identity and that I'm not defined by it. I want to be able to feel that getting rid of it is getting rid of something bad and debilitating, rather than getting rid of something that's special to me. Something that I feel defines me and sets me apart from everyone else. I want to be able to see myself as special and different and important without having to be thin and sick to see myself that way. That's probably one of my biggest issues, is that the eating disorder for me made me feel like I was really, really good at something. And it made me feel kind of special, I guess, and powerful. And that's something I really need to remember, that it wasn't anything good at all. It was very negative, and yeah, I just need to remember that. I want to feel like my talents lie within writing and photography and baking, rather than being able to lose weight and starve myself. I want to be able to feel pride in the work that I do, rather than the fact that I was able to restrict for a year without binging. Oh, well, not binging, reactive eating. I want to be able to not have to write that last sentence to prove to people that I was able to do that, to prove how good I was at my illness. That's another thing, like, when I wrote this last year. I find it difficult. I mean, I've had professionals express shock at the fact that I didn't actually have any reactive eating during my starvation period, and in a horrible, twisted way, that kind of made me feel proud of my illness. And I know that's a really, really bad thing, and I don't want to ever feel proud of the things that I did during my disorder. And I want to be able to, know that my talents lie elsewhere, and that's not actually a talent, that's something that just takes me closer to death. I want to be able to think clearly, to be able to have more control over my own thoughts, feelings and actions, instead of acting completely irrationally and regretting later my horrifying actions, such as self-harm. I have self-harmed for 10 years, but during recovery and stuff, it's not very frequent at all, and I don't really see it as a problem when it's very infrequent, and it's not serious either. But when I'm restricting and the eating disorder starts to make me, hate my body even more, it uses that as another form of self-punishment. And when I was really, really bad and just not being able to think or control my thoughts or actions really, I had a very horrific incident when I was drunk as well, and locked myself in a bathroom and completely sabotaged my own body everywhere. Luckily, these scars have actually healed completely, but they were there for months and months and months, and I really, really regretted it because they were everywhere, and it wasn't very nice at all. And well, thankfully it's healed, but they might not have. So those are my reasons for recovery. Actually, my final reason is actually got a picture of me, and it's not triggering because it's not for my body. When I was in my worst, I obviously focused so much on my body that I didn't even notice my face. When I went to a friend's house, I saw two pictures, one of just before I went into recovery, so it was when I was at my worst, and one a year into recovery. And I saw these pictures next to each other, and oh my god, the change is completely shocking. Actually, no, that's wrong. In my friend's house, it was the picture of me when I was at my worst, and it was a picture of me previously, when I was healthy. I wasn't actually healthy mentally at that point because I was losing weight, but it just shows what starvation does to your face. But I've got two pictures here from when I was at my worst and also a year afterwards, both taken on my birthdays actually. So every time I see this photo, I'm absolutely shocked. This is me at my worst. You can see, I don't know if you can see the darkness under my eyes and how the skin looks so stretched around my skull. I know the writing is backwards on here. That is me at my worst, and my face is just, it's white. It's pretty gross. And then here is me a year into recovery, and you can just see the difference straight away. I mean, my smile looks so much more genuine. My face, the skin on my face is a nice colour. I mean, obviously I don't think the colour was very good there on my video camera, but I can describe to you the fact that my cheeks look pink, my skin has a nice glow, an orange glow, and in the first images that I showed you, it's like a matte white grey colour, and it's really, really horrible, and every time I see it I just can't believe that my face actually looked like that. guess I was so focused on my body I didn't even notice my face. So those are my reasons to recover. And then I've written a paragraph here which is called I Will Never Forget, and it's about all the bad times, and this is my kind of reverse inspiration to recover. So I'll just read it out. It says, I will never forget the time when I was so starved that when I was walking back to my flat and saw a piece of food lying on the pavement, I was tempted for a second to pick it up and shove it in my mouth. I won't forget the time I was working out and my partner at the time came into my bedroom with a bowl of steaming pasta and vegetables, and I was absolutely furious at him for bringing the scent of food into my room that would tempt me to eat. I won't forget the time that I went to the hairdresser's and the left side of my head reshaved, and the razor buzzing against my skull made me feel as if I was going to pass out. I won't forget the time where I locked myself in my partner's bathroom and took a razor to my entire body. I will also not forget the time that I ate too much and spent hours walking up and down the same street in the dark at 2 a.m. to burn off the calories. I will not forget the time that I made myself vomit at a party and was caught by a friend standing outside the door. I will not forget the time I vomited so hard that I burst the blood vessels in my eyes. I will never forget my 21st birthday and how I spent most of the afternoon sitting inside, my stomach bloated and painful after eating what a normal person would eat for lunch, whilst my friends sat outside and smoked and laughed and chatted and ate to their heart's content. I will never forget that ice cream tastes the same when it comes up as when it went down. I will never forget being unable to express the love that I felt inside me for my partner, and the way that I could only show anger and fear and sadness, the way that I would not let him touch me because it made me recoil. I will never forget the agony of never being able to sleep properly, lying in bed calculating calories and meal plans and having nightmares filled with food and weight. I will never forget the feeling of hating my body so much that I wanted to tear off my flesh and crawl out of my bed. Crawl out of my skin. Lying in bed, scratching at my skin, crying, moaning, hating the heaviness of even existing. I will not forget the times that I knocked back salt water to help the food come back up. I will never forget the day that I had to eat 30 calories to get to sleep. I will not forget how I started refusing to visit my partner and made him constantly come to mind because I was too afraid of the foods in his flat. I will not forget my fear of visiting the supermarket. I will not forget how bland my existence felt as I lived off soup, apples, toast and roasted butternut squash for a year. I will not forget the time that I cut my face because I hated myself so much. I will not forget the time that I considered attempted to cut off the parts of my stomach that I thought were fat. I will never forget the day I almost chose my eating disorder over my partner. I will not forget the times that I baked and then destroyed my creations after I felt I had eaten too much of them. I will not forget the times that I exercised until I felt like I was going to pass out and then kept going on anyway. I will never remember the time my friend came to visit me at university because of nutritional deficiencies. I will never forget these times so that I will always remember why I chose to recover. That is my very depressing list, but it makes me realise how horrible the eating disorder was, and it makes me remember the times that really destroyed me inside, and I don't ever want to go back to that. So I do think that it is a good idea to write those two lists, and when you're having a hard time, just read through them, because it can be very inspiring to see your own reasons for why you want to recover. And sometimes I think when you're at the beginning of recovery, it can be good to kind of get a huge piece of paper, kind of like stick it on the wall, maybe in the kitchen or in your bedroom, and write in huge letters so that you can't miss it, your biggest reasons for recovery. Some people that I know want children, and they're trying to like recover so that they can actually, develop a child inside themselves that's going to be healthy, and they want to be healthy for raising their children as well. And obviously they need to get their periods back as well to be able to conceive. So some people could benefit from having that written on the wall so they can never forget that. Your biggest 1 or 3 reasons, so those get ingrained into your brain, and the eating disorder won't be able to make you forget them. So yeah, sorry that some of that was a bit depressing, but those are my reasons to recover and my reasons not to relapse, and I hope that you can make a big list of your own that will inspire you to keep on recovering and not to ever look back at the eating disorder with rose tinted glasses.